Hi guys, Mike Volkin here with Freelancer Masterclass and the Freelancer School podcast. Today we're going to be talking about what to do if a client asks you to lower your rate, right? It happens a lot. If you are talking with a client trying to secure a contract and they say, hey, you know what, instead of working for $50 an hour, can you work for 20 or 30? So we're going to talk about how to deal with that. First of all, don't take it personal. Negotiating is a way of life for many people. In fact, when I was visiting Croatia and I went to Greece and New Zealand, they all are very common negotiating, even in a store. Like in America, where I'm at, if I were to go to a store like, say, Target or something, and I see something on the shelf, that's the price I'm going to pay. Like, very rarely do I call over the manager, or anybody calls over the manager and says, can you go 30% lower on that price? But it's in other countries, it's kind of commonplace to do that. So don't take it personal. Even if it is the US and you're in the US and you're talking to a US client, it's just a way of life for many people. A lot of people approach it as it doesn't hurt to ask. All right. So don't take it as the fact that you haven't brought upon the value that you're trying to exude out of your client or your prospect yet. Don't take it as like you haven't done a good job to show a client that you're worth, say, $50 an hour. But just know that a lot of people just ask for the sake of asking, okay? But the big thing is don't backtrack right away. A lot of freelancers will go, okay, yeah, sure. You know, if this will mean that we can get started right away, 100% I'll do it. What you got to do is say, here's my fee, but here's what you're going to get out of the fee, right? And we're going to go through some scenarios in the next slide about what to say in response, but don't backtrack. Don't say something like, here's my fee, but I'll work less if you need me to, or something like that, okay? What you want to do is you want to avoid going through the scope of work, all right? So by this time, you're talking with a client, you've outlined all the stuff you're going to do. In some cases, you might even line item, depending on what line of work you're in. You might have even broken down all your tasks and given it to them. You don't want to go through all the tasks and say, okay, here's the scope of work line by line. What they're going to do now, instead of just having the project as a whole and asking you to reduce your fee, they're now going to go through the value of every single one of those minute items. And when you do that, you now have the opportunity for your prospect to nickel and dime you, which is never a good thing, right? They're going to go through each one of those tasks and say, okay, well, this one won't take that long, will it? Let's go ahead and reduce your fee there and there and there and there. And you just don't want to go down that road. There's nothing good can come out of that, okay? So what you want to do, if a client asks you how or will you lower your rate, you should ask them, which services that we discussed don't you want? So you might have, say, approached them with a marketing contract and said, you know what, I'll do your SEO, I'll do your website build out, I'll help with this, I'll help with that. And they say, well, can you reduce your rate? And you say, which services don't you find value in? You know, something like that. Which services don't you want? We can cut one out. All right. So you can always ask them, instead of just automatically lowering the price, you can say, well, what do you not want? Like, for example, if you go into Starbucks and you wanted a large coffee, but only wanted to pay for a medium, right? You're getting less product. So they're giving you less product for less of a price. So you're going to giving them less of a service for less of a price, right? And then ask them if they want to move to a project-based or flat rate. Maybe they feel more comfortable. So if somebody comes to you with an hourly dispute, not so much even a dispute, just an hourly question or a negotiation, saying, you know what, instead of $100 an hour, I want to pay you $75 to do this work. Say, you know what, it's hard for clients sometimes to understand what it takes to get a project done, all the hours that it takes. So why don't we move to a project-based or flat rate? And you would go on to tell them, and this is the exact phrasing that I use if I ever have to negotiate an hourly rate, which I don't anymore, but I used to say this a lot. Hourly rate is a terrible indicator of work output. And I would go on to say, do you know how fast I work? What are you comparing the speed and accuracy of my hourly work output to? And I would tell them, you know, typically I'm pretty high energy and I'll work about for 1 hour of my work equals about 2.5 hours of another marketer's work. So when you ask me to reduce my hourly rate and I didn't increase it based on the other marketers that you might be used to working in their speed, I think that you'd be on the losing end of that battle if I were to bring it up to actual work output. So why don't we just move to a project or flat rate, you know? So I just start that conversation with the sentences, of hourly rate is a terrible indicator of work output. And I've used this example before in my YouTube videos. I actually did this. I hired 2 writers to write a very similar blog article. Okay, they were the exact same cost. I think it was like $60 an hour. So one of them wrote a blog article on one topic, and another one wrote a very similar topic, same criteria, same word length, same structure, same formatting, everything. And one writer gave me, they both delivered the same quality work. One writer gave me the completed job done in half the time as the other writer. So in essence, even though they were the same hourly rate, one of them was twice as expensive as the other. Okay, that happens all the time. So when somebody asks you to lower your hourly rate, give them that example. You don't have to say, I heard somebody, on YouTube said that they hired 2 writers. You say, listen, let's just take this example of if I were to hire 2 writers and blah, blah, blah. So it's really hard to indicate what you're going to get out of every single hour of work. And, a lot of clients or a lot of freelancers might just get upset at this point. They might say, well, this client's going to be a jerk. They're going to be hard to work with. They're going to nickel and dime me the whole way. Really, I've had a lot of clients and prospects over the year ask me to lower my rate. And I'll tell you with certainty that some of them are really great clients to work with. You've got to establish yourself at the beginning of the value that you provide. And really, they won't negotiate their hourly rate. 99% of the time, they won't do this after you worked with them the first time. Once you do good work for them, they're not going to judge your rate. Okay. So just because they negotiate on price doesn't mean that they're going to be a bad client. So just please keep that in mind. And I hope this helps the next time a client asks you to lower your rate. Good luck.